Let me hear you, Tide Nation. Let me hear you. How you feeling? Ladies and gentlemen, you are locked and loaded onto the new home for In My Own Words, the podcast, hottest show on the streets when you look at, talk about, discuss, conversate, debate on Alabama football from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And as always, people, as I do each and every time, go ahead and drop that thumbs up, that like on the show, and subscribe, because what that tells us here at TDA, gotta continue pumping you the best in news, notes, information, and content on your favorite football program. It's because of you that the network, the channel here on YouTube, over 7,000 subscribers strong. And as we look at some updates here in terms of former Crimson Tide players, current information, and things going on around the program, we start this off with a huge congratulations, huge kudos in order to Reggie Ragland and Garrett Dieter, the former Crimson Tide linebacker and former Alabama wide receiver, will go to Super Bowl 54 in beautiful Miami Gardens, Florida, representing the Crimson Tide. Both guys play for the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that took care of the Tennessee Titans 35-24 in the AFC Championship game. So big kudos to Reggie Ragland and Garrett Dieter. In other news here, 4 former Crimson Tide players will be participating in the Senior Bowl on Saturday, January 25th at Ladd Pebble Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. Those 4 guys being Anthony Jennings, Terrell Lewis, Jared Maiden, and even one Jalen Hurts, the former Alabama and Oklahoma quarterback. Now, of course, Raekwon Davis, the senior defensive lineman, was slated as the 5th guy to play in the game. However, unfortunately, he has been bothered by an ankle injury, will not play in the matchup. So you look at Jennings, Lewis, Jared Maiden, and Jalen Hurts. And pretty cool moment happening this week at Senior Bowl practice as Nick Saban reuniting with Hurts. They both took a picture together, smiling, embracing each other. And Hurts was able to get a photo in with not only Coach Saban, but also his 3 former teammates. So really cool stuff going on down there in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Last but not least, Nick Saban, during the week of practice, was brought a question on Freddie Roach, the former Crimson Tide player and former staffer at Alabama, on, is he officially on the Tide staff at defensive line coach? Coach Saban answering the question with, the moment the University of Alabama communications department, communication staff gets that press release confirming Freddie Roach being on the coaching staff, everybody will get a word and a notice on that. Now, there was a photo that dropped to Twitter on Wednesday, and the photo was of Coach Roach in a local high school. He had the Alabama gear on, and the photo was captioned, "Thanks, shout out to Alabama Crimson Tide coach Freddie Roach for visiting the school." So everybody thought, with the photo captioned that way, is it official? Is Coach Roach here? Is he the guy? Has Alabama made that move? Nick Saban answering all those questions with, there's still some internal things going on to get this stuff down on paper before we make the announcement. So the moment the internal things are figured out, Freddie Roach will have the official word, or we will have the official word of Freddie Roach being on board. But he is handling some recruiting things right now for the Crimson Tide. So big ups to Reggie Ragland, Garrett Dieter in the Super Bowl. The 4 Crimson Tide players, Anthony Jennings, Terrell Lewis, Jared Maiden, and Jalen Hurts, kicking butt or about to kick some butt here in the Senior Bowl. And Freddie Roach doing some recruiting back at Alabama, but Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide waiting to tidy up some things before they make that announcement official. Well, folks, we're going to go to our first short commercial break right here, but upon our return, we will dive into Pete Golding. Should he get a second year at defensive coordinator? We'll be back after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today.
Always a big fan there of my guys at whitwellsports.com showing the love there. As we return to the conversation after getting you some updates here, we look at, wow, people are excited for the hire of Freddie Roach, and you should be. It doesn't get any bigger than having somebody that's from the state, Roach, a native of Killen, Alabama, and on top of that, having somebody that has played for the program, they understand the culture, the style, what this program means to the people in the community. Freddie Roach was an inside linebacker, middle linebacker for the Tide from 2001 to 05. Of course, he redshirted his freshman year in 2001. 2002, he was a National Freshman of the Year, was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, according to Sporting News. We're talking about a two-time second-team All-SEC selection, a guy that finished his career with 271 total tackles. He was named to the Alabama All-Decade team for the year 2000. And the 2005 team. The 2005 team will always be one very special to me. Now, of course, my enjoyment for Alabama football started in 1997. But one of my favorite teams of all time, the 05 team, because Freddie Roach played with some dudes. Let me just tell you, he had D'Amico Ryans, Juwan Simpson, Rudy Griffin, Roman Harper, Ramsey Bino Robinson, Anthony Madison, Simeon Castillo. I mean, I can go on forever, but Freddie Roach played with some dudes. And that 05 team, we're talking about defensively, that group was in the top 10 in college football in all 5 major defensive categories when you talk total defense, scoring defense, run defense, pass defense, and pass efficiency defense. So Freddie Roach hails from the state of Alabama, played at the program, was a staffer, was on Coach Saban's staff. When you talk about from 2008 to 2010, he was the assistant strength coach under Scott Cochran, helped the program capture its first national championship under Nick Saban in 2009, and the first title for the program since Gene Stallings got it done in 1992, that season. So Freddie was at Alabama for that. He would go to coach East Mississippi Community College, Murray State, South Alabama, and at Ole Miss. But prior to going to the Rebels, had his second stint with the Crimson Tide from 2015 to 2016 as a director of player development, being a part of 2 Southeastern Conference championships back-to-back and a college football playoff title in 2015. So here's a guy from this state, played at the program, on Nick Saban's coaching staff, has seen how it's done in terms of winning championships, developing the right relationships and getting things done the right way. And he knows, once again, the culture, the pageantry, and how things are done around here. And with him having the talent that he'll be around, the likes of LeBron Ray, DJ Dale, Christian Barmore, Justin Aboigbe, Byron Young, Ishmael Sopser, and so forth, you can see why fans will be excited with Freddie Roach being back in the fold here. But while the excitement is for Freddie Roach, the question is, should Pete Golding get another year at defensive coordinator and call him a defensive schemes? And if one was to take a poll right now, on the popularity that Pete Golding has among the fan base, that poll would be split down the middle. And the reason why, you would have one half of the fan base going, get that man away from Tuscaloosa as soon as possible. Did you see how bad that defense was? I mean, I've been a fan of Alabama since Bear Bryant, since Gene Stallings, and for the older fans out there, since Wallace Wade, Frank Thomas. I've never seen a defense stink that much to high heaven than the last 2 defenses were, especially the one from the 2019 season. I mean, I have had fans come to me with this. I've had fans go, Steve, you know what? There was a point in time where Bama Nation took pride in that defense. I mean, I understand the offense could be hit or miss, but the two things Bama Nation took the utmost pride in, Steven, defense and special teams. We took pride in that. And it's a shame how the special teams has gone off to the wayside. But for much of the best of the years, we have always seen a soul-crushing, take his life from him, stomp him in the dirt type defense. We bragged on that defense. We boasted on that defense. We wagered money on that defense like that. We knew Alabama known for defense, Stephen. And to see the last 2 years, including the 2019 season, I mean, it just didn't feel like Bama football. And this is coming from very much so concerned fans. And as much as people will always love, respect, and cherish one Tua Tagovailoa, and myself included, when I look at Alabama fans, I see the mentality of steel plant workers and coal miners. You guys are tough, hard-nosed, blue-collar, wanting things done the right way. And I remember among the first things Nick Saban said upon him being hired at the University of Alabama in January of 2007, one of the first things he did when he got off the plane, he and his wife, Miss Terry, and he lasered every last one of y'all in the face, the first thing he said, or among the first things he said, we are going to give you a team, a program, a product that you can be proud of. And for the most part, he's been accurate on that. For 11 of the 13 years, he's been accurate on that. The last 2 years, the product on defense fans have not been proud of, fans have not been happy about, fans have not been appreciative of, because it's not the product it's become used to seeing. Not saying that's bad, not saying that's horrible, not saying that it's putrid or atrocious or any of those words I just said. It's just something that you've not become used to or accustomed to seeing. So half the fan base would go, get Pete Golding out of here. The other half would be like, let's be reasonable about this. He came into a situation where he did not have a healthy roster to work with. He came into a situation where the glass was half empty. When you come into a situation as a D coordinator, and a young D coordinator at that, to where Dylan Moses is out before the season even starts with a knee injury. Joshua McMillan, his running mate, is out before the season starts with a knee injury. 3 games into the year, you lose LeBron Ray to a foot issue. And then as the season progresses, DJ Dale goes down with a knee. So 4 of your more critical players at very serious spots all sustain injuries. And I don't care what type of coordinator you have, when you have injuries at that magnitude, it's going to be difficult for any type of coordinator. So you have the fan base that say, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He came in with the glass half empty, with players injured. You're playing 8 to 9 true freshmen, and of those 8 to 9, you're starting 4 to 5, including the 2 in the middle of the defense, Shane Lee and Christian Harris, at both linebacker positions. And these 2 brothers are trying to get affirmation and confirmation of, am I in the right call? Is it Tango? Is it Ringo? Is it Rover? Is it A? Is it B? What call am I in? And the person they're looking for the affirmation and the confirmation on or from is just as young as they are. So there are teachable moments. You have growing pains. You have learning curves. Patience is a serious virtue here. And for the first time in Alabama history, in particular under Nick Saban, you are playing freshmen out of necessity. Alabama has never had to do that. When they have played freshmen, they've played them because the freshmen are just that good, are just that dynamic, and you just had to get them on the field in a particular role. For the first time, you're playing the freshmen because, by God, the freshmen were all you had. So, very different, uncharted territory that Alabama was in for the 2019 season. And I, for one, am a firm believer of everybody deserves one mulligan year. Everybody deserves 1 year where you crap the bed trying to figure out, okay, how do I put things in order in life, in career, in job, even in relationships? You get one mulligan year. I mean, fellas, you've seen this happen when the one fine chick curve you and you feel like you never gonna get shorty back, like you never gonna get that girl back. And somehow, some way on God's earth, she come back to you like the boomerang, do a 180, and you like, man, like she came back. Like everybody gets the one mulligan year. It's just like in head coaching. For most head coaches, or for all head coaches, you get the 1 year where you can mess a whole bunch of stuff up trying to figure out what do you actually have. And then year 2 is your improvement year. How do you build on what you tore apart? And then year 3, it's okay. Year 3 to year 4, you got 1 to 2 recruiting classes in. Now we can place the judgment on you. Now we can have the expectations that we want to have on you. So Pete Golding deserves the mulligan year. He deserves this 1 year to where he came in, glass half empty, injured riddled roster, had to have patience in teaching the young guys. You provide him now. Healthy roster. Freddie Roach is in play now. How does he maneuver in year 2? Pete Golding should be allowed to have that. And let me break this down to you here. Even with all that happened, with all the turmoil, with all the trouble, with this just not feeling like Bama football, despite the fact that Pete Golding and the Alabama defense gave up 18.6 points a game, the most of the Nick Saban era, despite the fact that Pete Golding and the Alabama defense of 2019 gave up 324.5 yards per game offensively. Both of those numbers still stood in the top 20 of college football. Both of them. According to NCAA collegefootballstats.com, the 18.6 points per game allowed by the Tide, 13th in the country. You still stood in the top 20. You still stood in the top 15 despite the chaos. The 324.5 yards, per game allowed stood in the top 20 at number 20. So, Pete Golding gets that mulligan year. Now in the 2020 season, this upcoming fall, if he struggles again with the healthy roster, with Freddie Roach, with everything in pocket, then we can pass the judgment. Then we can go off the deep end. Then we would have that right to kind of petition Nick Saban and be like, okay, Coach Nick, what in the Sam here that's going on? But right now, everybody deserves at least one mulligan year. This will be the mulligan year for Pete Golding. How will he be able to process this, learn from it, glean from it, but be able to parlay it into a successful second year, a successful 2020 season? So my thoughts on this, Pete Golding should get a second shot at this thing. But more than that, folks, comment your thoughts here on the bottom of the YouTube page on that statement. Do you think Pete Golding should get a mulligan year? Or do you think this is just way beyond repair? Like what he did 2019, unacceptable, not Bama, not our standard, not our expectation. That's 2 steps to the left. Get him out of here. This is way beyond repair. But as you're doing that, we're going to go to our next break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. When we come back, we will dive into Alabama's offensive line. Where does it go to at right tackle with Jedrick Wills and now Scott Lashley both out of here? We'll be back after this.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry, delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you.
Definitely Gonna get me some good food from Utero Hibachi pretty soon here. Definitely got to put that on my to-do list. Well, back inside the conversation from the break here, hottest show on the streets in My Own Words, the podcast. After looking at Pete Golding, should he deserve that mulligan year? I think he should, but once again, folks, comment your thoughts there on the bottom of the YouTube channel. But we look at one of my favorite positions. As you're looking at me right now, I'm a slender guy. I'm a slim guy. Try to keep myself in the best figure possible. Try to work out as much as I can, but I'm a big guy. I have a big guy's mentality and a small guy's body. So with that being said, it's a perfect transition to the Alabama offensive line in terms of spring ball and the 2020 college football season. More so in particular at the right tackle spot. Alabama graduating Jedrick Wills, the Kentucky native, to the National Football League. Wills, who was a 2-year starter at right tackle, a guy that very, very exceptional in both pass blocking and run blocking, though he would be penalized for the occasional false start here and there. Aside from that, the young man, a big-time player on the offensive line, and somebody of whom is projected a first to second-round pick. Now, some draft analysts, some draft boards have him as a top 10, as a top 15, top 20, and even some have him sliding into the top 10. But Jedrick Wills, a big deal, pursuing the National Football League, and right along with him, many people thought that with Wills headed out, Scott Lashley, the former 4-star from West Point, Mississippi, who came into the 2016 signing class at 6'7", 307 pounds, that he would be the guy to take over for Wills. Unfortunately, Scott Lashley has entered his name into the NCAA transfer portal and made it known on Twitter today that he is transferring, that he is taking his talents to another program, another institution. Lashley already has his degree. He would be entering his redshirt senior year in the fall, so definitely immediately eligible to play where his transfer destination would be at. One thing about Lashley, did have 19 career games under his belt, including logging 136 combined snaps as a backup right tackle in 2018 and 2019. So best of wishes there for Jedrick Wills pursuing the league and Scott Lashley on his transfer decision. But in terms of Alabama, who's next? Who could be the guy to emerge? Who's the next man up? Who will become the big-time fixture at right tackle? Now, for some fans, the idea would be plug Emil Ekiyor Jr. at left guard and go Alex Leatherwood left guard, Alex Leatherwood left tackle, Ekiyor at left guard, Landon Dickerson center, Deontay Brown right guard, and just kick big Evan Neal out to right tackle. Though that makes sense, and that move is intriguing, and it would be a pretty solid move, I am going to bring an idea to the table that not too many people think about, but if this move happens, it would be the nastiest move, and it would give Alabama not just a surefire offensive line, but also a surefire Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. So here's my pitch right here. So I would keep Evan Neal with Alex Leatherwood on the left side just because of the fact that Evan Neal, to me, presents more at left tackle. It's 6'7", 360 pounds. And having him with Leatherwood, giving him 1 year to learn more from Leatherwood, to play next to him, to kind of glean more wisdom on how to play at that left tackle spot. That way, when Leatherwood pursues the 2021 draft, you can just kick Evan Neal out there to left tackle. So I would keep Neal and Leatherwood together on the left side. I would take Landon Dickerson, and I would put Dickerson at right tackle. Here's why I would do that. Keep this in mind here for a minute, folks. Aside from Barrett Jones, Jonah Williams, and Jedrick Wills, all three of those guys at 6'5", And those three, high intellect, high IQ, very intelligent, fast hands, quick feet. The prototypical offensive tackle under Nick Saban is typically 6'6" or taller, but at least 6'6". And the reason for that is Coach Saban loves the size. He loves the wingspan, the long arms, the long hands, the long fingers to shield, neutralize speedy pass rushers, edge rushers from getting to the quarterback. And when you look at Landon Dickerson, when he played at Florida State, he played all 5 positions on the offensive line. And although he played at both center and guard at Alabama, he would make the nastiest right tackle just due to his toughness, his leadership, his demeanor, his ability in the run blocking scheme, but also a very solid pass protector as well. And if you were to put Dickerson at right tackle, now you would have the two guys with continuity and with chemistry and that have played together on the left side with Leatherwood and Neal, but on the right side, you got your nastiness, your hog mollies, your demons, your toughness, your big boys, your road graders in Deontay Brown and Landon Dickerson on the right side, which would have Darian Dalcourt play center. There are some people that are just naturally gifted, God-gifted, natural-born talents in certain positions. And for Darian Dalcourt, for me, Dalcourt is a naturally gifted, natural-born center. At 6'3", 295 pounds out of the Maryland area, came in the 2019 recruiting class of 4-star. The guy plays it with such ease, such effortlessness. It would just be a seamless transition having Dalcourt at center. The guy is not a wily veteran, but he's not wet behind the ears. He's not green as a rookie either. I mean, he played 7 games as a backup center, logged 69 snaps at that spot. 2 of the longest runs by a running back in 2019 came with Darian Dalcourt. And those 2 runs, a 37-yard touchdown run by Jerome Ford against Duke to start the year, and then a 74-yard burst to the house from Keelan, I got that Juice Robinson versus New Mexico State. So in both of those games, Darian Dalcourt got the key block. And to me, he reminds me of a young Antoine Caldwell. Y'all remember Antoine Caldwell played in 2008, just a very athletic beast of a center, an all-SEC selection in the 2008 season. That's who Dalcourt kind of sort of reminds me of. And also to put with that, in the event that you play Bryce Young, the amount of games that you're going to play him in, you got to think he will definitely see some field time in the upcoming season. Trying to bend the ball around a 6'3" center would be much more doable versus a 6'6" center if you were to have Dickerson at center, just due to Bryce Young is 5'10", 5'9". Now, of course, Alabama gives him 5'11", but quite naturally, the Crimson Tide embellishes a little bit when it comes to height and weight on the roster. He may be 5'11", but naturally he'll more than likely be 5'9", 5'10". And that difference of 3 inches between, of course, Dalcourt at 6'3" and Dickerson at 6'6" makes a big deal. So that's another reason why I would have Dalcourt at that center position. But for me, having him there, you could run power off the left side. You can run power off the right side. You would have both sides of the offensive line at your disposal with Darian Dalcourt at that center position. But, folks, that's just my thoughts right there. I would have it from left to right. Alex Leatherwood, Evan Neal, Darian Dalcourt, Deontay Brown, and Landon Dickerson. But, folks, comment your thoughts on the bottom of the page. What would you have the offensive line be? What could you see it look like? Would you rather have Evan Neal at right tackle and Emil Ekiyor at left guard and run it that way? Or do you look at the proposition or the perspective I'm giving and you kind of ride more so with that in terms of the offensive line, with the departures of Jedrick Wills and Scott Lashley from the team here. But we're going to go to another break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. When we come back, we will jump into the secondary aspect of Alabama. 4 guys leaving for the NFL draft. How will the Crimson Tide secondary shape out? We can look at spring ball and the 2020 season in the fall. Folks, don't touch that dial. We're coming back.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
While people love the guys on the offensive line, I know y'all do, it's time, people, that we jump into Alabama's secondary. The Crimson Tide secondary for the 2020 season in the fall. And after losing the likes of Trayvon Diggs, Jared Maiden, Xavier McKinney, and Shaheem Carter, we look at what will the secondary look like. What will Nick Saban, Carl Scott, who coaches the corners, and Charles Kelly, who mentors the safeties, what will this Alabama defensive backfield look like starting off in spring ball? Well, the good news is, with this particular position group and in the way Nick Saban has recruited defensive backs the last 3 to 4 classes, you got the opportunity to kind of play mix and match here. You have a chance to try a guy here, experiment with somebody there. If you like him, you can stay with him. If not, you can interchange. So the depth in the secondary, pretty good thing here when you talk Crimson Tide football. Now, for me, starting this off at the corners, the way Josh Jobe played, especially in the Citrus Bowl against Michigan, getting that interception, locking down that left side of the field in the absence of Trayvon Diggs, I would like to see Josh Jobe remain at left corner at 6'1", 189 pounds, the former 4-star in the 2018 class out of Miami, Florida. At times can be a little bit too handsy, a little bit too physical. He's a very passionate player, and his passion bleeds into his game, bleeds into his style of play. At times can be called for defensive holding or pass interference, but when he trusts his technique, his eyes, and he knows what he's supposed to do on the field, he can be a very effective player. And once again, we saw that in the Citrus Bowl. So as long as he continues to trust in what he's being taught and what he is supposed to do, I would like to see Josh Jobe man down that left corner spot. At right corner, give me Ronald Williams, the JUCO Alabama picked up out of Hutchinson Community College. Now, Hutchinson is one of those powerhouse JUCO schools. Now, it's not a Mississippi Gulf Coast or East Mississippi, but it's still one of the big-time junior colleges. So, like Ronald Williams, he's got the size, he's got the toughness, he's got the ball skills, he's got the physicality, and more times than not, when Coach Saban has signed JUCO players, especially at defensive back, he intends on playing them early. So, left corner for me, Josh Jobe. Right corner for me would be Ronald Williams. In terms of Patrick Surtain II, I would take him off corner and I would put him at star. I would have him at nickel. He's got the range and the size and I guess the closing speed to take on some of these guys in the slot at the nickel role. Surtain at 6'2", so you know he's got the length there, 203 pounds. I would like to see him put on a little bit more weight in the waist and a little bit more muscle on the upper body. And also with Surtain, for him to trust his technique a little bit more. There were times last season where I kind of felt like he took a step back. So I would like to see him be positioned switched over to nickel. He has learned both the corner and star role. So put him at nickel. See how he will be able to move, maneuver, progress, play in just defending some of these speedy guys in the slot. So I would have Surtain at nickel. At the money position, give me DeMarco Hellams right there. Now, quite naturally, he's got the body to play at strong safety. Kind of reminds me of that Mark Barron type of mold. Hard hitter, but can cover, can match the pass patterns, can play the football in the air. I like DeMarco Hellams, but right now, put him right now in that dime spot, that money role for me. At free safety, love Jordan Battle. I feel like he is the next heir to the throne in taking over for guys like Eddie Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and more recently now Xavier McKinney, who played that role. Jordan Battle, the product of St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Funny how he and Eddie Jackson both hail from the same hometown. So Jordan Battle this past year really played well. He's got tremendous range, can play sideline to sideline, hash mark to hash mark, can hit, can tackle, can cover, just a flat out ball hawk. I would put Jordan Battle at free safety, and I would kind of have Eddie Smith interchange with him at that spot. If Jordan Battle has to take a breather, insert Eddie Smith in there, the 3-star from Slidell, Louisiana, which will leave us with its strong safety. I feel like it is finally time for the boy Daniel Wright. I think he's finally got it all together. I think he's finally being able to put things in the right perspective. When he came into Alabama in the 2017 class from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the kid had the range. He's got the size at 6 feet, 6'1", about 195 pounds now. Got the size, got the range, got the physicality. I remember the start of the 2017 season against Florida State. He flew down like a bat out of heck on the kickoff and knocked the boys' block off. I mean, he took that dude out on the kick return for Florida State to start the 2017 campaign. So, like Daniel Wright in terms of strong safety, and then the interchange out with him, I would put DeMarco Hellams right there. So just looking at Alabama secondary for spring ball, going into the 2020 season, how I would sort of have it mapped out. Josh Jobe at left corner. At right corner, the JUCO Ronald Williams. At star and the nickel look, Patrick Surtain II. If Alabama's going dime in that money role, DeMarco Hellams. Free safety, Jordan Battle. And strong safety, Daniel Wright. That's just how I have it played it right here. Now, will Nick Saban, the man that's making $11.1 million, will he see it the way I see it? That remains to be seen. But yours truly just giving my thoughts there on the secondary. If you have a thought, if you have a comment, if you have a projection on the Alabama secondary, then folks, you know what to do. Comment that on the bottom of the YouTube page. You can also tweet me at Coaching M. Smith on Twitter to give your thoughts, concerns, questions, perspective on how you feel like the Alabama secondary needs to go. Well, folks, that's going to lead us here to our final break. When we get back, we will put a pretty bow on this thing. Keep it locked right here.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten the chance to provide some updates on former Crimson Tide players doing their thing in the NFL, getting ready to prepare for the National Football League, and even some current news. We looked at my man Pete Golding. Should he deserve that second year at defensive coordinator? Does he deserve that mulligan year? Coach Saban will make the final call on that, but I think he does. We'll see what happens. From there, we touched on Alabama's offensive line, in particular at right tackle, and what will happen in the departures of Jedrick Wills and Scott Lashley. From there, we took a chance at Alabama's secondary, y'all, and I set the pieces in motion on how I feel like Alabama's secondary may project out. We will see once spring ball rolls in on what will take place. But as always, people, I encourage you to download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. Do that today. Be the smart fan. Invest in yourself. And you can do this by going to the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you have the Android phone. As always, you check out the podcast options at the bottom of the screen for all of your audio viewing pleasures. Well, that's going to do it on this edition of Shows in My Own Words, the podcast. For all of us here at The Brand, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith. Until next time, folks, as always, you're listening to In My Own Words.